Program. The Israeli military says it has mistakenly killed 3 Israeli hostages during its ground operation in the Gaza Strip against Hamas, a group considered a terrorist organisation by multiple countries. Israeli army spokesman Daniel Hagari said the hostages had been killed in friendly fire in a neighbourhood of Gaza City.
During the fight in Shijaya, the IDF troops mistakenly identified 3 Israeli hostages as a threat. As a result, the soldiers fired towards them and they were killed. This is a sad and painful event for all of us, and the IDF bears responsibility for everything that happened.
Earlier, I asked journalist Sami Sokol in Jerusalem to tell me more.
Yeah, so this incident occurred at about 10 o'clock in the morning, which means that this happened in daylight. The location, we're talking about Shujaiya, which is a suburb to the east of the city of Gaza. And this is where we've had heavy battles in the last few days, where you also have a lot of casualties in the Israeli forces.
Right. And so what time is it there in Jerusalem now? This happened at 10 a.m. What time is it there now?
Well, now it's 9 p.m. and it was just half an hour or so ago that in Tel Aviv, the IDF spokesperson came out with this announcement reporting that these 3 hostages were shot and killed by Israeli forces that were operating in this area.
What more did they say about the circumstances of the shooting, Sami?
Well, they didn't give much details, but we can learn that these 3 individuals that were shot by the soldiers in daylight were unarmed, and they were approaching the soldiers from a distance. And it is not clear yet, and they have not published yet, whether they were shouting in Hebrew, saying things, marking themselves, raising their hands in the air. All of these things have not been published. And we expect the military to publish this, as the IDF spokesperson said that they will investigate the case.
Sami Sokol in Jerusalem. Meanwhile, Israel has approved the delivery of aid into the Gaza Strip through the Kerem Shalom crossing. The Prime Minister's office said this would allow Israel to maintain its commitment of allowing 200 aid trucks entry a day. Until now, all trucks entering Gaza had to pass through the Rafah crossing in Egypt. The UN has warned that people in Gaza are facing a humanitarian catastrophe with severe shortages of basic supplies. Well, Joe English is an emergency communication specialist at the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. Speaking from New York, he told me about the temporary opening of the crossing.
Hi, Bill, good to be with you. It's an important step. You know, at this moment in time, each and every truck of humanitarian aid that can get through is a lifeline for children and families who are going through, you know, what is almost unimaginable. You know, it also allows commercial trucks to get through, and that's also critically important. One of the things UNICEF is doing is providing cash transfers to children and families, because we know that that is one of the quickest ways to make sure that children and families can get exactly what they need. But the reality is if there's nothing in the market for them to buy, then that cash doesn't go very far. So it's an important step, but it is a drop in the ocean so far compared to the level of need.
OK, so what sort of things are getting through? Because when we talk about aid, in our minds we think about water and rations, but you seem to be talking about getting the normal daily food and provisions into the region so that shops can open and markets can open.
It's a matter of both. I mean, yes, UNICEF will be providing safe drinking water, will be providing nutrition supplies for children, desperately needed health supplies, vaccinations. But then also we need to make sure that there is a functioning marketplace so that families can get, you know, the other basics of life. because humanitarian aid is only ever a sticking plaster. And so the more trucks that can get through, both in terms of humanitarian aid and commercial transit, the better. And obviously, we will see what happens over the coming days, but this is a welcome step, because right now families are, our colleagues at WFP believe that almost half the population of Gaza is on the verge of starvation. We know that disease, they're already seeing outbreaks, and we know that when families don't have access to safe drinking water, that could explode. It is a ticking time bomb.
Right. And so how do you prioritise where the trucks, where the supplies are going in an area that is massively overcrowded and the whole thing is just a horror show?
Well, this is one of the challenges that we will face. Getting into Gaza with these humanitarian supplies is only the first challenge. There is still a chronic lack of fuel. There is a lack of communication infrastructure. So many thousands and thousands of people have been crammed into tiny spaces, all of them absolutely desperate for support. And so it will be a huge undertaking. And that's why this can't be a short-term solution. And ultimately, we need a lasting ceasefire, because without that, we will not be able to provide the level of support and assistance to families that they so desperately need. These families, these children need peace, and they need it as soon as possible.
OK, thank you so much for joining us. Joe English from UNICEF.
Thanks so much.